Since its inception in February of 2019, the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship have had their fair share of incredible champions, but also it's had its fair share of being cursed over the years. Since 2019, there have been multiple tag teams that have held the titles, excuse me, and made it a very prestigious set of titles. Tag teams such as the Iconics, the Kabuki Warriors, the team of Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross, the team of Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, the team of Natalya and Tamina, the team of Kaden Carter and Katana Chance, and even also the current champions Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. However, when I mentioned the curse, out of every single tag team that has held those tag team titles, there have been quite a few that had to give up those titles due to either the title, either one of the champions being injured, or the or one of the title holders was unhappy with their position in WWE. Tag teams such as the Kabuki Warriors, tag teams such as Sasha Banks and Bayley, tag teams such as Sasha Banks and Naomi, tag teams such as Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, as well as Kaden Carter and Katana Chance. Now, notice that I mentioned Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. That is because there have been a few times where either one or both of them had to give up the titles due to injury. This time is no different, because we found out as of this past Monday that Liv Morgan has re-injured her right shoulder that will put her out of action for a maximum of 6 to 9 months. Actually, let me rephrase. A minimum of 4 months, but a maximum of 9 months, putting her on the shelf for a very long time. This will lead to Liv and Raquel giving up the women's tag team titles. Now this poses a question. This poses a question that the entire WWE Universe has been asking for a very long time. The question being, are the women's tag team titles cursed? And should the titles retire? Should WWE retire the WWE Women's Tag Team titles? Well, that is something that we are going to definitely talk about in today's video, because Liv and Raquel are the only team in women's wrestling in WWE to have held the tag team titles 4 times. No other team has ever done that before in history. However, Raquel Rodriguez is the only person to have held tag team gold in WWE more than 4 times. In fact, if you can actually believe it, Raquel Rodriguez is actually is actually a 7-time tag team champion. Twice in NXT with Dakota Kai, one with Aaliyah on the main roster, and the remaining 4, you guessed it, Liv Morgan. Interestingly enough, looking at their time together, looking at her time as a tag team performer, Raquel Rodriguez has done more for tag team wrestling in WWE than any other woman could ever stake claim to. However, with Liv Morgan getting injured this past Monday on Raw at the hands of Kairi Sane, obviously the injury was incidental. It was a complete accident. This is leading to WWE, potentially forcing Liv and Raquel to give up the women's tag team titles. This report got released by multiple news outlets, including Sportskeeda, WrestleVotes, The Wrestling Observer, and even also Wrestling News Co. A lot of these news outlets have all reported saying that Raquel Rodriguez that Liv Morgan could be out of action for a maximum of a minimum of 4 months, but a maximum of 9 months, as she will need surgery on her right shoulder once again. This is leading to her momentum going down drastically, as obviously we know that Liv Morgan has been in not one, not two, but 3 storylines right now. One with Io Sky, one with, I believe, with Dirty Dom and the Judgment Day, and then I believe the other one is currently with recently with Nikki Bella. So obviously Nikki Bella returned last week on Raw, not this past Monday, but last week on Raw, where Liv Morgan attacked Nikki Bella amidst Nikki Bella talking about the all women's PLE Evolution coming up in a few weeks, which is going to be a very historic night given how much the women's division has expanded since 2018. There's definitely a lot to consider with that, but this leads to a question that again has been talked about for a minute now, and I brought this up in a past episode in a past video over the last few weeks. Could this be the end of the Judgment Day? And at this point, it could very may well be. This could potentially lead to Liv and Raquel turning babyface once again, as obviously Dirty Dom, he's had a tendency to do some crazy bullshit in WWE, because when it comes to his time in WWE, he went from teaming with his father Rey Mysterio, becoming tag team champions, to joining the Judgment Day, being Rhea Ripley's Latino Heat, to cheating on Rhea for Liv Morgan, becoming a 2-time North American champion and the current Intercontinental champion, now to potentially cheating on Liv Morgan for Roxanne Perez. And this storyline is going to be very interesting, because if the rumors are true and Liv and Raquel do have to give up the women's tag team titles, this will mean that Roxanne Perez will indeed go after Dirty Dom, no matter what it takes. This could potentially lead to Roxanne Perez winning Queen of the Ring tournament, getting a opportunity at the women's world title at SummerSlam, which could potentially lead to Liv Morgan returning, putting herself in that match, making it a triple threat, which could then lead to obviously, us having a repeat of last year's SummerSlam, when when Dominic Mysterio cheated on Rhea for Liv Morgan. So it is very possible, but this also leads to, again, the question of whether or not the women's tag team titles should be retired. And honestly, that right there is a bit of a tricky question to answer because the women's tag team titles has had their fair share of incredible champions over the years since its inception. Since its inception, I know I said 2019, but they were introduced to the entire world on December 24th, 2018. So this came literally during the holiday season. And again, over the years there have been an incredible list of tag team champions over the years, dating all the way back to February 17th, 2019. The Boss and Hug Connection, Bayley and Sasha. Then over to the Iconics, Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss, the Kabuki Warriors, to Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, Asuka and Charlotte Flair, which didn't really last that long, only lasted a few weeks. I think mostly just due to Charlotte's ego for the most part. To Natalia and Tamina, Rhea Ripley and Nikki Cross, or Nikki ASH if you guys remember that. Carmella and Queen Zelina, Sasha Banks and Naomi, Raquel and Aaliyah, Damage Control. Obviously now Damage Control no longer running rampant in WWE, which I may or may not talk about that in a future video. So be sure to be on the lookout for that. Let's see here. Asuka and Alexa Bliss, Becky Lynch and Lita, Liv and Raquel, Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler, Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville, which then led to Sonya being injured, so Piper Niven took over. Kaden Carter and Katana Chance, Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill, The Unholy Union, Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria, and then of course again, Liv and Raquel, now part of the Judgment Day. Interestingly enough, again, there have been so many tag teams throughout the span of the last several years that that held the titles. It's incredible. In fact, there have been a combined 21 tag team champions over the years, and right now the team that the one tag team that has the longest combined reigns ever are the Kabuki Warriors. So across the two times that they were champions, they held the titles for 278 days, which is the longest ever. As of right now, I believe, in fact, I believe that reign still holds true to this day, which is absolutely incredible. But this leads to the question of, should WWE retire the tag team titles? Here's the thing, right? A part of me wants to say yes, but a part of me also wants to say no. Yes, because of the fact that the tag titles have had its fair share of the holders getting injured, including Asuka, Jade Cargill, who else can I name? Kairi Sane, Dakota Kai, Asuka I mentioned, who else? Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez, Shayna Baszler. A lot of these women that held the tag titles have gotten injured because of the women's tag team titles. But there have been a couple who left WWE because of the position that they were in involving the women's tag team titles. And one team in particular, Sasha Banks and Naomi. Obviously now, Sasha now being, I think Mercedes Moné, elsewhere, compete, working outside of WWE, doing awesome. She's doing incredible things. Excuse me. Hopefully at some point we do see her back in WWE. But only time will tell. But no, but again, yes, because of the curse. No, because this would lead to WWE being forced to bring in a new championship or a new set of titles for WWE, for the women's division. And obviously, everything in, all things WWE, Raw, SmackDown, NXT, they all have their own set of world champions, women's champions, men's mid-card titles, women's mid-card titles, and tag titles. So when you think of Monday Night Raw, you think of the world heavyweight title, the intercontinental title, and the world tag titles. When you think of SmackDown, you think of the WWE title, the US title, the WWE women's title, just to name a few. There's a lot to consider, but this is a bit upsetting for Liv Morgan to give up the tag titles with how much momentum she's had ever since last year when she first became women's world champion. She had been on an impressive roll, even post War Games. Last year, even in spite of the loss, excuse me, and even in spite of losing the women's world title to Rhea Ripley on the Netflix premiere of Raw, she's gained so much momentum literally throughout this whole year. And for Liv Morgan to have to give up the tag titles because of the injury, again, it is upsetting, but these things can happen at any time. That's why WWE always tells us as the fans to not try it at home, because injuries can happen at any given time. And again, if you end up pulling that shit at home, you can either get injured or worse. And I think you and I both, you and I know exactly what I mean by that. So as far as like who could potentially be the next women's tag team champions, I mean at this point it could literally be anybody. It could literally be anybody. It could be the Secret Harvest from SmackDown. It could be, it could be the Bella Twins. I know that there's been a lot of rumors that the Bellas want to go after the women's tag team titles at some point in their careers. It could be the team of Zelina Vega and Alexa Bliss. I know that they've teamed up a few times in the past. It could be Michin and B-Fab, which would be a cool dynamic. It could be from NXT. It could be, I don't know. It could be Sol Ruka and Zarya. It could be from Evolve, from Evolve. It could be Zeta Steel and Nikita Lyons. It could literally be anybody. Or from Raw, it could even be the new team, the Dungeon Dolls, which are Maxine Dupree and Natalia. It could be any one of those tag teams, but we will have to wait and see. We do have to wait until this coming Monday to find out if they will have to give up the tag team titles. We don't really know for sure, but if they do, I can guarantee you that whoever wins the tag team titles, Liv and Raquel will not be far behind, as they want to be the only 5-time tag team champions in WWE history in the women's division, which could be that right there is just history on its own. But with that being said, that'll do it for today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you guys smash that thumbs up button. If you guys are new to the channel, you guys want more WWE topic videos in the future, then be sure to subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and as always, make sure you guys are following me on all of my social media. All of my ads will be in the description below, as will the info to my fan mail. It will also be in the description as well. And on that, this is your boy Nash, signing out.